Rethinking the Oriental Carpet in Early Renaissance Paintings. In this series of 7 lectures, we're going to step away from conventional wisdom and rethink the role of the Oriental carpet in early Renaissance paintings. I'm going to interpret the information derived from the Carpet Index in an entirely new way. This series will challenge conventional wisdom by suggesting that, instead of being luxury items of Muslim manufacture before 1500, carpets can be seen as demographic markers, visual witnesses to the movement of populations of Eastern Christians to the West in the early modern period. And as such, they give us a whole new window onto the Renaissance. Segment 6, the sacramental role of carpets in European paintings. Traditionally, specialists have concentrated on the style of the carpet within European paintings. For instance, identifying this as a Lotto carpet, the style name for the Venetian painter Lorenzo Lotto. Data from the index indicates that the carpet has a very significant iconographic meaning within the early Renaissance. Up until now, the index has indicated that the carpet marks holy ground. Until 1500, the paintings are overwhelmingly Christian in context, where we are in the precinct of the Virgin. In 66% of the index paintings, the carpet marks the holy ground beneath Mother Church and her saints. Yet, within this context of holy ground, there is another deeper level of Christian meaning for the carpet in European paintings. In the early days of the index, I came across this odd group of paintings that initially fit no other category or context. A baptism with a carpet. How messy was that? And why so many marriages and funerals? And what of the many images of charitable giving? Why did these include the carpet? I finally realized that I was looking at representations of the 7 sacraments of the early Renaissance Church: baptism, confirmation, ordination, receiving the Eucharist, giving of charity, marriage, last rites, and Christian burial. So in this segment, we're going to examine the sacramental subjects of these paintings and the symbolic role that the carpet plays within them. So we'll be looking at this as St. Antoninus Giving Charity by Lorenzo Lotto, dated 1548, where the emphasis is on the act of giving charity, not on the style of carpet marking holy ground. The 7 sacraments, these are what you, as an individual, are obliged to do to remain a practicing Christian in good standing. We have many early Renaissance paintings of these sacramental activities where the carpet marks the holy ground of Mother Church. Baptism, confirmation and ordination. Here the carpet underlies the sacrament of Mass. The giving of charity, the sacrament of marriage, and finally, the sacrament of last rites and Christian burial. Among early Renaissance depictions of the 7 sacraments, 2 categories stand out for correction within traditional carpet studies explanations: the sacrament of marriage and the giving of charity. These depictions were misunderstood by early carpet specialists as the sacramental role of the carpet in these paintings was unknown to them. This is where we get the confusion of luxurious domestic interior, when in fact, we're usually looking at the sacrament of marriage. In the famous Arnolfini marriage portrait, the carpet is marking holy ground. We also see this with the removal of their shoes, indicating holy ground, and the little dog of fidelity seals the deal. The earliest marriage carpets were in Italian scenes from the life of the Virgin. Over time, the image evolved away from the Virgin into scenes of marriage and of family life, all centered around the sacramental marriage carpet. We can see it even in this lovely portrait of a Calvinist family in the Dutch Netherlands, where the charming little child plays with the dog that signifies fidelity. The so-called banking scenes are another misunderstood category of carpet paintings. In fact, these are not banking scenes at all. They depict the sacrament of charity. In this guide for wealthy Italian youth, circa 1340, the bankers in the top segment are doing their ordinary work, but please note, without a carpet on the table. However, when the bankers are fulfilling the sacrament of charity, the carpet covers the table, marking holy ground as they give alms to widows, children, and the poor. There's really no other reason that a carpet would be included in this particular painting unless it was related to the sacrament of charity by this wealthy couple. Yes, it's certainly beautiful and luxurious, but in this context, it's not included as a status item. It marks their duty to Mother Church. The giving of charity. As we saw in the previous painting, before the Reformation, if you were wealthy enough to give alms, it was your Christian duty to do so. It was also your Christian duty to be fair and just within your community, which we will see in later justice paintings. With the Reformation, everything changes. There comes the eclipse of Mother Church. Until 1500, we were in the precinct of the Virgin, where the carpet marked the holy ground of Mother Church. There were stirrings of anger and dissent everywhere. After 1520, the Reformation changes several important aspects of the sacramental carpet as holy ground. Accusations of Mariolatry or worship of the Virgin made Latin Christians wary of depicting Mother Church. O brave new world! Reformation England was the last holdout on the religious symbolism of the carpet as holy ground of Mother Church, and not in a particularly good way. If you take nothing else away from this series of lectures, I hope that you'll look at this iconic painting with new eyes. The virile and aggressive Henry VIII now confronts us as the head of the new Church of England. He has thrown the Virgin off her carpet, and he's daring us to defy him. There's no question as to now who is standing on the holy ground. And here's his little son Edward, manfully imitating his father's bold stance on the holy carpet with a "No Girls Allowed." He himself is also claiming to be head of the Reformed Church of England. The Reformation went hand in hand with the discovery of the New World. In what would have been a shocking turn, we now have the Virgin's carpet heaped with the tools of empire, science, and conquest. This is pretty much the end of the era of gentle mommies and babies on the carpet. With the Reformation, we have a profound switch from the feminine to the masculine, from the virgin and infant child to the adult Christ as the head of the church. We now see images of the adult Christ firmly presiding over his church. He is the Eucharist himself at the Last Supper with its white altar-like cloth over the carpet's holy ground. We see it also with the newly risen Christ at the supper at Emmaus, where he appears to his disciples and breaks bread with them, where their simple table is transformed into an altar by the carpet and white cloth. Reflecting the visual changes brought about by the Reformation, we now have the appearance of the masculine justice carpet. This is where Christ's wealthy and powerful male representatives in the community were expected to be just. The carpet emphasizes the sacred duty. And I have to say that before the Reformation, there were female personifications of justice, including the Virgin, but now it's important that justice be perceived as masculine. We see it in images of kings embracing on the carpet, bringing peace. Kings were expected to be powerful, earthly intercessors for peace and justice. Instead of the Virgin, now it's the masculine kings and Christ representatives in the community. They are expected to bring peace, as we see here at the famous Somerset House meeting in 1604, where the diplomats decided peace between England and Spain, with the carpet central to achieving their sacred duty. And I think that we can see an American vestige of this concept here in John Trumbull's depiction of the Declaration of Independence, where we can almost hear Thomas Jefferson saying, "With a firm reliance on divine providence, we mutually pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor." Yes, it's probable that even George Washington understood the symbolic significance of the carpet. I think he knew that the carpet on which he stood was not just a simple luxury item, but a powerful embodiment of the promise of justice for his new country. The carpet continues to play a role in justice and injustice phrases that we still use today. When someone is called on the carpet, it indicates justice. If something is swept under the carpet, it equates to injustice. And to have the carpet pulled out from under you, well, that can be either. The Counter-Reformation carpet coincides with the golden age of the Muslim luxury carpet in the West. The Dutch Golden Age, luxurious pile carpets from Ottoman Turkey and Safavid Persia became ubiquitous status items among the newly rich, both Calvinist and Catholic. Excessive and vulgar merriment by the nouveau riche is heightened by the inclusion of the carpet, now firmly a commercial luxury good from the Muslim East, but with old religious baggage. There was tremendous tension between the Calvinists and the Catholics, and I won't get into all of the laws and various restrictions. I want to emphasize the subtle persistence of the image of the sacramental carpet in the Netherlands. The Calvinist struggle with the Catholics in the prosperous Netherlands, this created a tremendous amount of tension. This is a marvelous painting by Adrian van de Veen, The Fishing for Souls, showing the competing Calvinists in the front and the Catholics in mid-ground, pulling in souls and each trying to get the upper hand in the Netherlands. The giving of charity remained a firm Catholic sacrament. As I said before, there's really no reason for this beautiful carpet to be here with this well-dressed couple, unless it was indicating that a sacrament was being fulfilled. However, the giving of charity did not sit well with the Calvinists in the prosperous Netherlands. Traditional Latin church values such as charity to the poor were rejected by many Protestant leaders in the North, since their belief was that the poor lacked industry. In the Calvinist view, the visible misery of the poor indicated God's wrath, and that they were obviously predestined to hell. The poor, not the blessed rich, were now responsible for their own lack of resources. Catholic artists often disagreed, but being in the minority, Roman Catholic painters such as Jan Steen, Jacob Jordans, and Jan Vermeer chose to hide this religious division in plain sight. I believe that they used the sacramental carpet as an artistic device, a visual code, so to speak, to comment on what they viewed as Protestant disregard for the 7 deadly sins. The tug and pull between sacraments and deadly sins played itself out in 2 particular genre categories, in images of greed versus charity and images of lust versus marriage. Certainly we can look at paintings like this and see a lively genre painting of merry company. Or are we actually seeing the sins of greed, pride, and acquisition writ large? Again, this is called The Usurer with a Tearful Woman. But is it actually highlighting the sin of greed accompanied by its lack of compassion? And we get images of chaotic and dissolute families by Jan Steen. In fact, neighbors who did not keep up a certain Dutch standard of order and cleanliness were pejoratively referred to as Jan Steen households. So I'm hardly the first art historian to ask the question, are these paintings genre or judgmental? Catholic artists such as Jacob Jordaens had certainly been exposed to Italian works where the sacramental carpet, overlaid by a white cloth, reverently depicted Christ as the Eucharist. So in turn, when they painted pictures of gluttony, drinking to excess, and merry company, which we traditionally call genre, I think the addition of the white tablecloth over the carpet with their sacramental overtones was deliberate, and I suggest, in fact, they are deeply judgmental inclusions. To me, it's now very clear that Dutch Catholic artists were equating material abundance with spiritual poverty, hiding this moral judgment in a rather lighthearted plain sight of everyday life. Another prominent disruption is the rumpled carpet, with images of adultery and riotous living. Scenes of licentious behavior often include not just the carpet, but the rumpled carpet. This was observed by the brilliant John Mills in 1980, who, although unaware of the carpet's role in the sacrament of marriage, nevertheless intuitively speculated on the moral intent of its inclusion. Vermeer, and this has been noted by several other authors, here is probably depicting a woman contemplating adultery. The rumpled carpet with the bowl, with peaches and apples spilling out of it, also has lots of interesting sexual connotations. We can see this in any number of instances in Dutch paintings, where the rumpled carpet is a prominent feature in images of flirtation and mingling couples. So to me at least, I suggest that the scandal of adulterous behavior is heightened by the inclusion of the rumpled carpet, with its old religious baggage of sacred marriage vows. Even the little dog of fidelity is barking at this kind of illicit canoodling. So my conclusions. The golden age of the Muslim carpet surely coincided with the Dutch era of prosperity. Luxurious piled carpets from Ottoman Turkey and Safavid Persia became ubiquitous status items among the newly rich. Yet, the sacramental symbolism of the carpet persisted, particularly in the religiously divided Netherlands. Economically booming from world trade, nevertheless, its debilitating wars between Protestants and Catholics spilled over into catastrophic battles between the Spanish and the Dutch, which eventually brought about the Rampjaar of 1672, the year of disaster, when, as it was famously noted, the population was irrational, redeloos, the government was desperate, radeloos, and the country itself beyond rescue, redeloos. So I suggest that we add another very Dutch play on words to this redeloos list. Rimpeld equals wrinkled, disturbed, out of the ordinary. The rumpled carpet signals a world out of order. It's in complete contrast to this extremely sober Calvinist wedding portrait with its unrumpled carpet, the father reading the Bible, the elegant but severe mother, and the charming little child playing with the dog of fidelity. And it brings us to this. Many art historians have written on the remarkable psychological depth of these beautiful still lifes, with their very Dutch take on human nature and on how ephemeral life is. No matter how rich you are, life is truly fleeting. But now, if we add a rumpled carpet to the imagery, it suddenly takes on spiritual depth as well, where something as perfect as wedding vows, often pledged by the very young and innocent, can become corrupted and changed with the passage of time. I think this very poignant message takes us far beyond our initial and automatic description of the carpet as simply a luxury item of Muslim manufacture. I think the Dutch, who were so instrumental in bringing the wealth of the East back to Renaissance Europe, deeply came to understand that unprecedented prosperity alone would not save them from their earthly travails. They had entered a brave new modern world indeed. Please join me for the concluding lecture on rethinking the carpet in early Renaissance paintings.